I am feeling very anxious at the moment. My partner is a high school math teacher. He has been teaching for 10 years now and has received praise from students, parents, other teachers, and administration for his work. We have been together for 7 years and got married in 2023. I have never worried about him being interested in his students. We have discussed teacher-student relationships, and he has always expressed disgust and the belief that it is an abuse of power, even if the student is an adult, though this is based on movies, not specific instances in real life. He has never been accused of being inappropriate to my knowledge, never interacted with students outside of school hours unless it was school-related, and always maintains a professional distance. He refers to his students as kids and has taken advice from other male teachers to not form close relationships due to his attractiveness and age. Now, here's what happened. In March, while at the movie theater, I noticed a group of girls staring at us. I alerted my partner, and he confirmed that they were his students. We didn't approach them, and they didn't come to us. However, I noticed one girl being playfully pushed by the others, and she seemed to be looking at my husband with sheepishness. I assumed she had a crush on him, but I didn't think much of it until recently. During a Canada Day BBQ with family, my husband was very drunk. At one point, he went to the bathroom and took longer than expected. Worried, I checked on him, but he didn't unlock the door even when I identified myself. He stayed in there for about 10 minutes, which was unusual. Later that night, I woke up and realized my husband wasn't in bed. Worried again, I found him in the living room using his phone. This was also unusual behavior. When I asked what he was doing, he hit his phone screen and said he couldn't sleep, so he didn't want to disturb me by watching videos in bed. We both went back to sleep. The next morning, he had a hangover and slept in. I took this opportunity to go through his phone. I've never had a reason to distrust him before, so I've never done this. I didn't find anything concerning, except for the Snapchat app, which he hadn't logged into. He used to use Snapchat, but from what I knew, he hadn't used it in years. I didn't think much of finding the app and assumed I was reading too much into things. Last night, I saw a Snapchat notification on his phone while we were watching TV. I tried to ignore it, but I recognized the logo. I became extremely worried because I knew he had been logged out of Snapchat the previous week, indicating that he was secretly using it. I pretended not to notice, and a few minutes later, he got up to go to the bathroom. I cried while he was in there and then decided to go to bed early. He stayed up without me since he's on summer break. When I woke up for work, he was still asleep. I checked his phone again and found that the Snapchat app was no longer there. This confirmed my suspicions. I searched for Snapchat on the home screen, and it was hidden in the folder labeled as cooking and workout apps. He hadn't logged out of Snapchat, and when I opened it, I saw that he had only one conversation with a real person, which was a girl. The conversation didn't have any evidence or past messages because Snapchat deletes them. I was ready to confront him about cheating, even though I had no concrete evidence. However, I wanted to find something more substantial, so I continued snooping. In the same hidden folder, I found that he had the OnlyFans app downloaded. He was only subscribed to one content creator, who had the same username as the girl on Snapchat. Shockingly, it was one of his students from the theater incident, the girl who blushed. I had never recognized someone's face so quickly. I was certain of the connection. The fact that she was his student disgusted me even more. I was so horrified that I threw up. I was scared to wake him up, so I left for work after putting his phone back. At work, I did some investigating and found the girl's Instagram and Twitter accounts. She is 18 years old, and from her graduation photos, I can say with certainty that she attended my husband's school. Her Twitter bio also had a link to her OnlyFans account. My husband has been texting me as normal throughout the day, but I haven't responded except to say that I'm going to my parents' house tonight. However, I'm still at work because I don't know what to do. The situation is messed up, but the fact that she has graduated complicates things. Is this now just like any other affair? I don't even know if she was his student. I'm confused about what to think. What should I do next? Should I consult a lawyer? Should I confront my husband and ask for his explanation? Should I contact the girl? Additionally, does anyone know if there's a way to tell when an app was first downloaded? Here's the update post I made this morning, since this situation is blown up and I can't reply to all the comments. Link provided. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You have the girl's name. If so, I'd confront him by asking about her. I'd ask when did he first subscribe to her OnlyFans account, just casually. When he denies, I would ask if it was before or after they started snapping each other. Is it a paid subscription? Also, you can see when the app has been downloaded if, on an iPhone, you go to your apps in your settings. It will tell you the date of when the app was downloaded, even if it's since been deleted. Your husband is gross, by the way. This is a reminder to all people that usually when someone is sue against something, there is a reason. The reason is often because they are attempting to cover up what they really think, etc. Or because they believe if they show they are vehemently against it, people will think that's true. Just like people who cheat often would be the first to discuss how horrible cheating is. Comment 2. Don't confront husband. You have little evidence. Did you save screenshots? Confronting her won't do any good. Now it's time to find a lawyer for advice and to prepare. The lawyer will advise. If you need evidence for a better divorce, the lawyer will tell you. While the lawyer works, you need to consider what you want. If you want to give the marriage a chance, save the evidence elsewhere before confronting. OP. It can get very ugly when hubby realizes that not only is his marriage at risk, his job, and potentially prison, if he's involved with a student, depending on where you live. If you feel you need more evidence, a keylogger will provide. Not for court, but for your peace of mind. And so you know where to point a PI who can get evidence submittable in court. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking with me through all this. A lot has happened since my last post. After I left work that day, I went straight to my parents' house. I needed some space to think and figure out my next steps. My parents were surprised to see me, but they welcomed me with open arms. I didn't tell them everything right away, just that I needed some time away from my husband. They didn't press for details, which I appreciated. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind was racing with all sorts of thoughts and emotions. I kept replaying everything in my head, trying to make sense of it all. I decided that I needed to confront my husband, but I wanted to do it in a way that would give me the answers I needed without causing a huge scene. I also wanted to make sure I had all my facts straight before I talked to him. The next morning, I called in sick to work. I needed the day to gather my thoughts and prepare for the confrontation. I spent the morning doing more research on the girl. I found out that she had just turned 18 a few months ago and had graduated from my husband's school in June. This confirmed my worst fears. She was definitely one of his students. I also reached out to a lawyer to get some advice. I wanted to know what my options were and what the potential legal implications could be. The lawyer was very understanding and gave me some good advice. He told me that since the girl was 18 and had graduated, it would be difficult to prove any wrongdoing on my husband's part. However, he also said that if I wanted to pursue a divorce, I should start gathering evidence and documenting everything. Armed with this information, I decided to confront my husband that evening. I went back to our house and waited for him to come home. When he walked in the door, he looked surprised to see me. I could tell he knew something was up. I didn't waste any time. I told him that I knew about the Snapchat and OnlyFans accounts and that I had seen the girl's profile. At first, he tried to deny everything. But when I showed him the evidence, he broke down and admitted to it. He said that he had been feeling lonely and disconnected from me, and that he had started talking to the girl as a way to escape his feelings. He insisted that nothing physical had happened between them, and that it was just an online thing, and I didn't know what to believe. Part of me wanted to believe him, but another part of me was furious and hurt. I told him that I needed some time to think and that I was going to stay at my parents' house for a while. He begged me to stay and talk things through, but I couldn't. I needed space. Over the next few days, I tried to process everything. I talked to my parents and a few close friends about what had happened. They were all supportive and offered me advice and comfort. I also continued to talk to the lawyer to figure out my next steps. During this time, I started to reflect on our relationship and how we had gotten to this point. I realized that we had been growing apart for a while. My husband had been working long hours and seemed more distant and preoccupied. I had been busy with my own job and responsibilities, and we hadn't been spending much quality time together. I started to wonder if there were other signs that I had missed. One night, while I was at my parents' house, I had a long conversation with my mom. She told me about a time when she and my dad had gone through a rough patch in their marriage. She said that they had both been feeling disconnected and had started to drift apart. They had to work hard to rebuild their relationship and reconnect with each other. Her words gave me some hope, but I still wasn't sure if I could ever trust my husband again. I decided to meet with my husband one more time to talk things through. We met at a neutral location, a coffee shop that we used to go to when we were dating. It was a bit awkward at first, but we eventually started to talk. He apologized again and said that he was willing to do whatever it took to make things right. He suggested that we go to couples therapy to work on our issues. I told him that I needed more time to think about it. I wasn't sure if I was ready to forgive him or if I even wanted to try to save our marriage. I also told him that I needed him to be completely honest with me about everything. He agreed and said that he would do whatever it took to regain my trust. As I left the coffee shop, I felt a mix of emotions. I was still hurt and angry, but I also felt a glimmer of hope. I knew that the road ahead would be difficult, but I was willing to take it one step at a time. Thanks for reading. Am I the idiot for telling my girlfriend to choose between me and her ex-best friend? My girlfriend and I are in a relationship for around 4 months and have been talking for around a year. Yesterday, we decided to have intimacy while being a bit drunk. Around an hour or so later, she called out the name of her best friend. Context: my girlfriend used to have a male best friend who was always there for her during her hard time after the breakup of her last relationship, which lasted around 6 months. He liked my girlfriend, and they used to spend a lot of time together, almost like the whole day, and then go to their separate homes at night. I met her after that period, and we started liking each other. I confronted her and asked her if she liked her best friend, to which she denied straight up and said that it's not the case at all, even though they would spend the whole day together. I had problems at the start because I was kind of insecure at that time, but she assured me multiple times that she never liked him. Recently, she forgot to reply to him and call him back multiple times during his hard phase, which made him cut all connections with her. She confronted him, they had a talk regarding it, and decided to move on in their lives. Now, coming back to yesterday, she called out his name twice while having intimacy with me. The first time she blurted out his surname but stopped halfway. I figured it out because his surname was very unique, but I didn't put much thought into it. Then, after a few seconds, she clearly called out his first name. I got hurt, stopped, cleaned myself, and dressed up. As soon as I stepped out of the bathroom, I found her crying. I was ready to leave at that moment itself, but she was naked and I just couldn't. As I was dressing her up, she started crying and repeated that there's nothing like that, and I don't know how it happened. As we were drunk, I said, "Let's sleep and we'll talk in the morning." She continuously cried and slept on the floor. I brought her a blanket and pillow, and I went to sleep on the bed as I couldn't leave her in that state. In the morning, I felt as if I'm dead inside. I couldn't feel hurt, disappointed, or anything. It's just blank. She said sorry multiple times, asking how could she fix this, and again reassured that there's nothing like this between them, while saying that she doesn't know how it happened as she was drunk and was in a half-asleep state. But I couldn't reply with anything. What should I do? Now for an update, we sat and talked about it for more than an hour. I politely said that we'll go ahead with the breakup, to which she said, "Let's give each other time to think over it." Of course, these are not the exact details, but this is what happened in brief. It'll be either breakup or building trust, and a relationship from scratch. So basically, the thinking period's going on. And I noticed some of you guys said that she's still in contact with her male best friend. I can confirm she has not been for months. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. There is or was definitely something going on with them. It's time for her to come clean or you need to leave. Sorry this is happening to you. Comment 2. I am assuming you were drunk too, but it sounds like you managed not to shout out his name. Sorry this has happened, but it's best to cut your losses now. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my last post. So, after that night, things have been pretty tense. We decided to take some time apart to think things over, but it's been hard. The first few days were just a blur. I went to work, came home, and tried to distract myself with anything I could find. But no matter what I did, I couldn't stop thinking about what happened. I kept replaying that moment in my head, trying to make sense of it. A few days into our break, she texted me asking if we could meet up and talk. I was hesitant, but I agreed. We met at a coffee shop, and she looked like she hadn't slept in days. She started by apologizing again and said she had been seeing a therapist to try and understand why she called out his name. She said the therapist suggested it might be because he was a big part of her life during a tough time, and his name just slipped out. She insisted again that she had no feelings for him, and that she wanted to make things right between us. I listened, but I still felt numb. I told her I needed more time to think. She nodded and said she understood. We left it at that and went our separate ways. A week later, I got a call from her. She sounded panicked and asked if I could come over. When I got there, she was in tears. She told me that her ex-best friend had reached out to her. He was going through a rough patch and needed someone to talk to. She said she didn't know what to do because she didn't want to hurt me, but she also felt guilty for not being there for him. This put me in a tough spot. On one hand, I didn't want her to have any contact with him because of what happened. On the other hand, I didn't want to be the kind of person who tells their partner who they can and can't talk to. I told her that she needed to decide what was more important to her, our relationship or helping him. She said she needed some time to think about it. A few days later, she called me again and said she had made her decision. She told me that she had blocked him on all social media and changed her phone number so he couldn't contact her. She said she wanted to focus on us and rebuilding our trust. I was relieved, but still cautious. I told her that I appreciated what she did, but it would take time for me to fully trust her again. We decided to start seeing each other again, but we took things slow. We went on a few dates and talked a lot about our feelings and what we wanted from the relationship. It was awkward at first, but it got easier over time. I could see that she was making an effort to show me that she was committed to us. One night we were sitting on her couch, and she told me about her past relationship. She said that her ex was emotionally hurtful and that her male best friend was the only person who was there for her during that time. She said that's why she felt so guilty about not being there for him when he needed her. Hearing this made me understand her a bit more. It didn't excuse what happened, but it helped me see where she was coming from. As we continued to work on our relationship, I started to notice small changes in her behavior. She was more open with me about her feelings and made an effort to include me in her life. She introduced me to her friends and family, and we started making plans for the future. It felt like we were building something real, but then something unexpected happened. I got a message from her ex-best friend. He said he wanted to meet up and talk. I was hesitant, but I agreed. We met at a park, and he apologized for causing any issues between us. He said he had no intention of coming between us, and that he just needed someone to talk to during a tough time. He also said he was moving to another city for a job and wouldn't be in contact with her anymore. This was a turning point for me. It felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I went home and told her about the meeting. She was surprised but relieved. We talked about it and decided that we were ready to fully commit to each other. The last few days have been the best we've had in a long time. We're both making an effort to communicate better and be more understanding of each other's feelings. It's not perfect, but it feels like we're on the right track. Thanks for reading. Am I the idiot for dumping my misogynistic boyfriend after he said, "Women need men's permission for everything"? I, 28-year-old female, have been in a relationship with Tom, 45-year-old male, for 2 years. We split up for a few weeks about 4 months ago because he developed some very extreme views very quickly and suddenly. After a few weeks, he came to me and we had a heart-to-heart where he seemingly realized that he hadn't formed his own opinions and it's just how he was raised, so he will do better. And the whole thing honestly felt so sincere. I put it down to an age difference thing. We have been back together for a while, and nothing untoward has been said, and things have been going great. This evening, a funny movie, barely relevant to the topic, got him talking about unplanned pregnancies. We both have children, and don't plan to have any together now or ever. My pregnancy made me disabled, and another could either paralyze or unalive me. I felt like it was going to be a conversation where he goes off on one and gets upset about something that isn't even relevant to us. So I asked him to change the topic because I can see we are going to disagree. He did not. It was a long conversation where I could barely get a word in, but in summary. 1, he believes that men are treated unfairly in every aspect of life. Divorce, marriage, work, parenting, etc. 2, Women should need the man's permission to either keep or terminate a pregnancy. 3. A woman loses the right to make decisions about her body when she lets a man put a baby in her. 4. If a man wants a baby unaliving, it's morally wrong that he cannot make the woman get one. 5. If a woman refuses a baby unaliving, the man should not be legally responsible for the children. He says, if a woman lets a man impregnate them, then they are agreeing to give that man at least 50% control over her body. There was honestly so much, and I just felt more sick the more he spoke. I begged him to stop speaking because once he says things, I can't unhear them. But he just kept going. Every time I tried to speak, he spoke over the top of me. If I tried to comment on anything, he just repeated what he had originally said like a broken record, over and over again, getting louder and louder. He kept referring to his views as we, like he truly believes that he speaks for all men. For example, we just get screwed over constantly by you lot. You decide you want a baby, and we have to pay for it. He ended up leaving my house early, but he was actually angry at me, which shocked me. As he left, he huffed at me repeatedly and explained how disappointing it is that I can't respect his opinion, that I need to accept that no two people have the same opinions, and I don't need to agree with his opinions. But as his girlfriend, I should listen and respect his views. I do kind of see where he is coming from, and he does generally just brush it off when he disagrees with me, whereas I kept trying to prove him wrong. He can be very convincing, and I have questioned my judgments in the relationship before. So, when are differing opinions too different to make it work? Is there a way to respectfully explain that I think everything he said is disgusting? How can I explain my viewpoint without coming across as disrespecting his opinions? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. How do I communicate my point of view without disrespecting an opinion that really disgusts me? Why are you trying to respect such an abysmal, controlling, misogynistic opinion? Instead, help out all of womankind and stop tolerating men like this. The minute you do, you become part of the problem. Comment 2. How do I communicate my point of view without disrespecting an opinion that really disgusts me? Why the FCK do you even need to? Why are you even still with this guy? Why haven't you blocked him yet? What the FCK are you even talking about having to respect opinions that disgust you? Sheesh. Now for the update. Hey everyone, a lot has happened since my last post. After Tom left that night, I spent hours just sitting on the couch, trying to process everything he had said. I felt like I was in a fog, and I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. The next day, I decided to take some time for myself and went to visit my sister. She's always been my rock, and I needed someone to talk to. I told her everything that happened, and she was just as shocked as I was. She reminded me that it's important to stand up for my beliefs and not let anyone, even someone I love, make me feel small or insignificant. When I got home, I found a long text from Tom. He apologized for getting so heated and said he wanted to talk things through calmly. I agreed to meet him for coffee the next day. I hoped that maybe we could find some common ground or at least understand each other better. At the coffee shop, Tom seemed more relaxed. He started by saying he didn't mean to upset me and that he just feels very strongly about certain issues. I told him that while I respect his right to have his own opinions, I couldn't agree with the things he said about women and pregnancy. I explained how his views made me feel unsafe and disrespected. He listened, but I could tell he was getting frustrated. Then, out of nowhere, he dropped a bomb. He said he had been thinking a lot about our future and that he wanted us to move in together. He believed that living together would help us understand each other better and work through our differences. I was taken aback. Moving in together was a huge step, and given our recent arguments, it felt like the worst possible time to consider it. I told him I needed time to think about it. Over the next couple of days, I couldn't shake the feeling that Tom was trying to control the situation. It felt like he was using the idea of moving in together as a way to smooth over our differences without actually addressing them. I started to feel trapped, like I was being pushed into a corner. Then, things took a turn for the worse. Tom started showing up at my house unannounced, bringing up the same arguments over and over again. He would get louder and more insistent each time, and it was starting to scare me. One night, he showed up after I had put my son to bed. He was visibly upset and demanded to talk. I told him it wasn't a good time, but he wouldn't take no for an answer. We ended up having a huge fight. He accused me of not caring about his feelings and said I was being selfish. I told him that his views were harmful and that I couldn't be with someone who didn't respect my autonomy. He stormed out, slamming the door behind him. The next day, I got a call from my son's school. They said he had been acting out and seemed very upset. When I picked him up, he burst into tears and said he was scared that Tom was going to hurt me. My heart broke. I realized that my relationship with Tom was not only affecting me, but also my son. I knew I had to make a decision. I called Tom and told him we needed to talk. When he arrived, I told him that I couldn't continue the relationship. I explained that his views and behavior were not something I could accept, and that I needed to prioritize my son's well-being. He was furious. He accused me of overreacting and said I was throwing away everything we had built together. But I stood my ground. After he left, I felt a mix of relief and sadness. I knew I had made the right decision, but it was still hard to let go of someone I had cared about so deeply. Over the next few days, I focused on rebuilding a sense of normalcy for my son and myself. I leaned on my sister and close friends for support, and they helped me see that I deserved to be with someone who respected and valued me. Looking back, I realized that there were red flags all along. Tom's sudden change in views, his insistence on being right, and his attempts to control the situation were all signs that things were not okay. I had ignored my instincts because I wanted to believe in the person I thought he was. But in the end, I had to face the reality that his beliefs and behavior were not something I could live with. Thank you for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.